Rob has to rebuild. News came out, front office doesn't want to go all in. I get it. Maybe there isn't an attractive trade, but you can't have the cake and eat it too. Rob, this is perfect. This is going to take me right into my next topic that I want to get into. Okay. So if I missed some of the other comments in there, I'll get to them in a little bit. But one of my topics that I have here, you're right. There was a report out there that said that the Lakers not willing to go in. You know what I find so interesting? Actually, our buddy, Jovan Buha, was the one that reported this. I'm going to read a little bit of this article, and I'm going to spend some time on this because I think it's a great conversation and a topic. Let me tell you why. Rob Pelinka has a decision to make. Rob Pelinka's job is to not just look at January 21st and where the Lakers are sitting. Rob Pelinka's job is to look at the Lakers a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And we'll see. You know, how long is Rob Pelinka going to be doing this? I have no idea. If I will tell you this, and I've said this before, if Rob Pelinka is recycling another coach in 2 years, then you got to recycle your president of basketball operations, because you can't have one individual hiring all these different coaches and then it's the coach's fault every single time. So this is a critical stage for Rob Pelinka. But here's what the article said. It says Laker rumors. Rivals sense half-measure trade more likely than going all in. Okay. Per the Athletics, Jovan Buha, the sense from rival scouts and front office executives around the NBA is the Lakers are more likely to either stand pat or make a half-measure trade rather than try to go all in. Let me say this real quick with Rob Pelinka. His actions are going to speak louder than his words. Whatever Rob Pelinka tells you, a couple off seasons now, I've heard Rob Pelinka. I've been there. I've been in the same room where Rob Pelinka is addressing the media, and he says that you can't buy a house that's not for sale. Then he said, you know what, this summer we're going to have 3 first-rounders to work with. He's said some things. You know, I'm not crazy about that strategy. I'm not crazy about the strategy of over-promising, under-delivering. I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver. But he said some things to lead you to believe, oh, damn, Lakers are using some first-rounders. They're going to be doing something here. Something big's going to come for the Lakers. That hasn't happened. Okay. He made his first move that I think right now a lot of people who maybe they were D'Angelo Russell fans, maybe they weren't. Maybe they just need Dorian Finney-Smith to do better. So far with the Lakers, he's been really quiet, really hasn't done anything. And I haven't had a game yet where I could come on the postgame and say, DFS. That's why he's on your team. That's why you traded D'Lo. That's why you got rid of that expiring contract. With all that said, Rob Pelinka is about to tell us how he feels. LeBron had a comment on Sunday saying, well, this is just the construction of our team. Lakers got to play near perfect basketball. And you hear LeBron, when he's talking about the construction of our team, he's talking about the front office. He's talking about Rob Pelinka. Here's the decision Rob's got to make right here. And we don't need to hear anything. His actions are going to say, they're going to say everything. If Rob Pelinka does nothing, if the Lakers stand pat, like this article is mentioning, let's just say they stand pat. Let me play out that scenario real quick. Lakers do nothing. Okay. Let me tell you what standing pat means. Standing pat means I'm not wasting any more assets on this team. That's what standing pat means. Okay. Standing pat is the equivalent of a business that is, every single month they're looking at the profit and the loss, and they're asking themselves, they're saying, okay, do we keep dumping money into this business, or do we file for Chapter 11 and let this business go and kind of reorganize this entire thing and then come back with a bit different strategy? If Rob Pelinka does nothing between now and the trade deadline, in my opinion, what he's saying is, I'm not investing anymore in this team. It's not worth my assets to invest any more into this team. Okay, that's one option there. That's if they stand pat. Let's say that they take a half-measure trade, which, by the way, listen, I'm not completely opposed to. If it's the right player, if it's the right skill set, if you're getting rid of players that you don't really feel like are the right assets, and you didn't give up every asset that you have, that would make me think, okay, Pelinka is still not giving up on this season, still thinks with the right tweaks, and this has got to go right and that's got to go right, that the Lakers can potentially be a headache for other teams out there. And he's also not saying, well, I'm not going to also give up every single asset, because I do have to think about next year and 3 years and 5 years and when LeBron retires and what happens with Anthony Davis once LeBron decides that he's done. If he makes a half measure trade, then I look at Rob Pelinka as basically saying, okay, I'm going to make some tweaks. I'm also going to rely on the roster that we have. I'm going to rely on Vando to come back. I'm going to rely on Dorian Finney-Smith to be better. I'm going to rely on LeBron and Anthony Davis in a 7-game series where you get the proper amount of rest, where it's less travel, all this other stuff. I'm going to rely on all of them, and I'm going to take my chances for what it is. The last approach about the Lakers potentially going all in, what is the all-in move? There really isn't an all-in move. The only all-in move that I've ever seen, that I've ever thought could be realistic, is if you went out there and you got somebody that said, okay, here's our third star, but more important than our third star, here's our future with Anthony Davis. Just as important as here's our third star. I know we like kind of using that term, but just more important than the third star, you got a player that you said, LeBron, when you're done, we got Anthony Davis and we got De'Aaron Fox, right? Or whoever it is that the Lakers would try to go all in for. But is that player, are you going all in for a guy like Jimmy Butler? I don't know. I think that's obviously such a short-term strategy, and you're not building a future with Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis. You're just not going to. Now, you might get a couple of years maybe with that team. I think that's the least likely thing to happen, is the Lakers going all in. If they stand pat, I firmly believe this. I think if they stand pat, Rob Pelinka has said, I don't want to waste any more assets on this team. It's just not worth it. If they make a half-measure trade, I understand it, and that's probably the most likely thing to happen. And an all-in trade, I think, would surprise all of us. So whether that's another big man, a ball handler, whatever it is, that's kind of how I look at the Lakers and where they are right now. Okay, man, I'm yapping here like crazy. I didn't even realize Dylan's waiting for me. Look, Dylan's right here. He's ready to go, and I'm sitting here yapping. What's going on, Dylan?
Hey, how are you, man? Good morning.
Good morning, buddy. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your time. I'll just say here, real quick, for those who don't know, Dylan Hernandez writes for the LA Times. Phenomenal job. Has been doing it for a long time. As opinionated as it gets. So, thank you, buddy, for joining the show.
No, thank you for having me on.
Okay, here I am, running my mouth about the Lakers. What a shock. What a surprise here. Lakers had the Clippers a couple days ago. They got a chance to play, obviously at Intuit Dome. My first time there. Not bad. Not bad there, Dylan. That's a nice little facility they've built over there. I'll ask you this, and I'd love to get your thoughts. Just by the time tonight's game is done, Lakers are at the halfway point of the season. When I say Lakers basketball, we're 40 games in. Can you give me just some of the things that come to your mind?
Yeah, just kind of an organization that's stuck, honestly, right? I mean, I think, they didn't have a choice but to basically go kind of into the LeBron James business, right? I mean, if we're really gonna tell the truth here, I mean, it really just hasn't been the same since Jerry Buss passed, right? I think sports organizations, always just kind of start at the top. Obviously, Jerry Buss was this visionary. And it hasn't been the same since, right? And so I think they try to kind of milk the end of Kobe as much as they could, right, to remain an attraction. And if you kind of look back, and I think what's very kind of instructive, right, is kind of that time between Kobe's retirement and LeBron James's arrival. And you kind of look back. I mean, they picked up a lot of good players in these drafts, right? They accumulated a lot of talent. But the Lakers are an organization that define themselves by championships, and when you do that, you need hope, right? Hope is your currency, right? Hope is what you sell to the fans. And, again, as many talented players as they picked up, and, right, if this were New Orleans, you'd be fine with this, right? You're like thinking, okay, well, down the road, we'll eventually contend. But what really marked those years, I feel, was just kind of the absence of hope, at least in the short term, and that's, again, fatal for a team like the Lakers, like USC football right now, right? People expect national championships from the Trojans. They're not getting that. People start to lose interest. And so, obviously LeBron James falls out of the sky, basically. LeBron picked them, right? Let's be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
Delivers one championship. Unfortunately for them, it's in the bubble. And now they kind of have to, again, like, this, my colleague Bill Plaschke's kind of been arguing, hey, you know what, find a way to get rid of LeBron. Let's kind of move on with our lives. But you kind of can't, right? Because if you get rid of LeBron, you're kind of going back again to that previous era there. And as long as LeBron's around, every time they go on a 3-game winning streak or something, you're kind of looking at it like, like maybe, right? Because he's still LeBron James. Now I do think, now we're kind of in this part of the year that happens every year, right? As the trade deadline approaches, LeBron makes it very clear we don't have enough to win here, and he's kind of passive aggressively putting pressure on the front office to kind of make a move.
Did that on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. When he said, right, we basically have to play perfect basketball to win. And so, now I do think we've seen enough from this organization now to know they're not going to just kind of push all in here to see if they could get LeBron one more, and basically kind of sabotage their future, right? Because they don't want to kind of end up, in a situation where there's no talent coming in after LeBron leaves. So, I think they're kind of stuck here, right? And they've gotten kind of into this, like, again, this LeBron business where, and I know people are upset about the whole Bronny thing. I was even, when they got eliminated last year, I wrote, at the time, if they have to draft Bronny to get LeBron back, you do that, because right now that's what they're selling, right? What keeps them nationally relevant is LeBron James. What gives the fans any semblance of hope, and I know you could argue it's fake hope, but is LeBron James. And, so again, like, now you're at the same time, you're building around a 40-year-old superstar. We've kind of seen, right, kind of the sustaining of that. They probably need a third guy. I think that right now they've kind of pushed all their, eggs into the Austin Reeves basket to see if he could be the third guy. And I think, right, even kind of before this year, I think a lot of us were kind of talking, can you win a championship with Austin Reeves being your third best player? I'm not so sure about that, right? And
I don't think so.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very skeptical of this one. We kind of see him. He's had great games, and then those days that he's like minus 20 or something, they get blown out, right? And so, you probably need something a little bit more consistent there. But again, they're not probably going to. I kind of, when I first logged in here, I kind of heard you say, you'd be surprised at them making kind of that all-in move, and I would be too. So that just kind of leaves them where they have been, right? You get a favorable draw in the playoffs. Maybe they can make a run to the conference championship, right? If the matchup is bad, maybe they get knocked out early. And I think every series that they're going to be in, they'll make it feel like they have a chance, right? Because LeBron and AD are there. And realistically, though, I don't think you're going to get any more of that, until LeBron does retire.
All right, if you enjoyed this clip and you want more, just subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the Sliwa Show. And then after every Lakers game, post-game show right here.